392.
How much horsepower do I have?
Oh. Maybe more than that.
No, this has the 392 engine.
Well, wouldn't that mean that's 392 horsepower?
Yeah, you think my 392 has 392 horsepower? That's awesome.
What does it mean?
It's a Scat Pack 392. It's 392 horsepower, right?
Well, what else would the 392 stand for?
Who knows? Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Welcome back to a new video. Today's video, I wanted to do a little trip down memory lane and maybe provide some education that I've learned myself to understand how we got where we are in the current car market, and how, of course, we're talking about Dodge, how they got sucked into the greedflation through COVID, and how, frankly, every car manufacturer did. But some manufacturers figured out how to not completely blow their businesses up, and others, well, they completely blew their businesses up. And today, everybody's squealing and saying, well, nobody's buying our cars, inventory's piling up, this is horrible, our floor plans are killing us, and poor dealers can't pay their bills and can't make any money, and the salesmen are struggling, and layoffs are happening. And listen, I understand that's all unfortunate for you, but there's a way we got here, and it's an interesting thought. It's an interesting concept that I was able to do some research, because I wanted to understand, as I mentioned in a few of my other videos, how in the hell everything's cruising along. 2019, 2020, we end up with stuff like power dollars, $7,000 off on a Hellcat, $7,970 off on a Red Eye. Power dollars were outstanding. A Scat Pack got $4,950 in power dollars. Dealers were bending over backwards to make deals. We didn't hate the dealers as much. We certainly never loved them because the games were stupid, but there were never sticker addendums on the windows, and there were never, literally never at a Dodge dealership that I remember, unless it was a demon back in 2018, there was never a sticker that had a list of complete utter bullshit on the sticker about, you know, nitro fill or lug nuts or 5,000R window tint or all this tropical advantage program and all the stupid words that they come up with. And gotta love the creativity with some of the stuff these guys can come up with. But there was none of that stuff. And there was this fair negotiation that took place where, yes, the dealer is going to try to screw us as much as they can. We're going to try to screw them back as much as we can. But in the end, everybody generally left happy. We felt like we got a deal on the car. They felt like they made a little bit of money, and they sold as many cars as they could because they always had lots and lots of inventory. And I remember traveling around to buy my Red Eye from dealership to dealership to dealership, looking at different Red Eyes, narrow bodies, wide bodies, what color. Some had the performance spoiler on them, some didn't. I remember the things I wanted, you know, sunroofs, no sunroofs. I mean, you would go look at all the different cars with the Harman Kardon. Some didn't have it, and you would pick the one you want and negotiate the best deal. But we had power dollars, and then COVID hits, and there I am. I'm sitting on my Red Eye that I got for like $82,000 or something, because I got almost $8,000 off on power dollars, and even ground them out of a couple $1,000s above and beyond that. Didn't get hit with any additional crazy admin fees. This is the same dealer today. If you go to that dealership and look at any of the stickers on their cars, and there's a whole laundry list of bullshit lined up that they want you to pay for, that you have to fight with them about. But it was a very fair negotiation, and I left in the car, and then I bought a bunch of Scat Packs and traveled across the country, bought cars. But COVID happened, and we had a supply chain shortage, and there was the semiconductor challenge and the chips, and we could not get enough cars. And I remember sitting in my office and started to see the videos. I remember Racer X did one, and started watching videos about shortage of inventory. It was something that I didn't expect to happen, didn't believe would happen in my lifetime, had never happened. So it was perplexing. And then it became prolific, and pretty soon we started driving around shooting videos. I was shooting videos. A lot of you YouTubers out there were shooting videos saying there's nothing on the lot. There's big, huge, empty parking lots. They were parking cars kind of like like this way towards each other, and just to take up all the empty space. You couldn't find anything, whether it was a Toyota dealership, a Ford, Dodge, didn't matter. There was no cars. So the dealers figured, man, we can't even stay in business by selling. If we sell all of our inventory at a discount and actually do people right, we'll have nothing to sell. So under those circumstances, I understood that the insanity had to happen. Like, they had to do something to meet the demand. And if there was supply was so short and demand was higher, then yes, I understand why prices went up. And it was pretty much across the board that markups became pretty prolific, even on Toyota Camrys, for God's sake, because there just wasn't any cars. So I don't want to sound like I'm defending the dealers and doing the markups back then, but I understand, because I do believe in simple market economics, where if supply and demand are battling with each other, then one has to give in to change the movement in the market. So in those circumstances, there were so few of something and so many people willing to buy. And then what did the government do? They said, well, we're going to be in trouble if we don't keep this economy rolling, since we just shut down the entire planet. Let's drop interest rates to astronomically, historically low rates. So now, even though prices were higher, even though there were some markups, people were like, at least I'm paying 1 or 2% interest. At least I'm paying really low interest on these cars. And then that continued. And because of those low interest rates and because of the low supply, it continued probably for about a year and a half. And then supply started to pick back up, and the semiconductor issues started to resolve themselves. I mean, things started to kind of head back to normal. But the dealers, they weren't playing along. But part of that isn't just their fault, because there's something that was new, and I'll put the article in the comment or in the description below, that it's called Triflation. And it's something that we're definitely dealing with, and something that I think has broken the Dodge CEOs or Stellantis CEOs' brain, because Triflation, as defined by this article that I'll put up on the screen, was when a manufacturer realizes that if we can't build as many of the things that we used to be able to build, then we need to only build the ones that are the most profitable, the higher trims, higher priced cars. So you're not going to build the entry-level cars that are super, super cheap, that they make very little money on, if you have only so many chips available and so many parts available. You're going to build the higher line cars. So that started to raise the average sales price of cars as the market continued to be in a shortage of inventory. And that was called Triflation, as identified by this article. And it makes complete sense, because why would they build the cheap ones? They're going to build the more expensive cars and make more profit. But then the dealers tacked on markups on top of those things. So through that, which made sense, like, I can't even argue with it. It's like, you need to make money. Rates are super low. There's a higher profit on these cars. We're going to get cashed out by these banks. So that's a way to make money. So they ended up having their record years, their record profit years. And we all know that happened. Dealers started having them because they started slapping markups. But then supply started to come back, and that's when the after effects, that's when the hangover kicked in. And the dealers had an opportunity at that point to say, hey, look, we're going to go ahead and go back to normal again. Manufacturer could have said, hey, look, we're going to go back to normal again. But they didn't. Instead, they went into what is identified in this article as greedflation. And greedflation is when they go, no, let's pretend that didn't happen, and let's now stick with selling the higher trim cars, and let's stick with selling them for a ridiculous amount of money, and let's go ahead and like hide inventory, funnel inventory to certain dealerships, make these cars as hard to get as we possibly can, because they're the highest profit vehicles. But then you had Stellantis having foresight towards the strike and started pumping out tons of trucks, tons of cars, and lots of SXTs and GTs started to come back in. And these were the most selling. They sold more of those, I believe, than any of the other trims, because those were the entry-level cars, which I think where Stellantis is really screwing up now is the only entry-level car they're going to have is the Hornet. And then you're going to jump right to a very expensive electric vehicle called a Scat Pack or an RT, or what I guarantee will be very, very expensive inline six twin turbo Dodge Charger. That's going to be a problem. But there's nothing to take them from entry level to the higher end. And now with the SXTs and GTs all going away, they will all get sold, and they're discounted so low right now. There's probably almost no profit built into those things, but that was okay for many, many years because people would buy those to get into a car that looked that cool, to get into a Challenger or a Charger, a cool looking car that, although it had a 6-cylinder, wasn't gutless. It would still move okay. It had reasonably decent gas mileage, and it didn't look like a Yugo or something. So you had a really, really nice looking car, and then you can start aspiring towards moving up in trim, moving from that SXT to maybe a GT, and a GT up into a RT, then an RT to a Scat Pack, and a Scat Pack to a Hellcat. And then they added the wide bodies in, which gave them a whole nother level of aspirational vehicles for people to stretch us a little bit more from a Scat Pack standard body to a Scat Pack wide body and get an upgrade and get something new. And it was beautiful. Just by adding some plastic to these cars, very minor changes, you're able to move people along through the trims and then make money all the way along the way. But you had to catch them somewhere. You had to catch them when they were starting off. You had to catch them in college, or catch them right out of college, or catch them right out of high school. Or catch me when I don't know what the hell I'm buying. I go to the dealership and I'm like, all I want's a V8, and I buy an RT, only to find myself wanting more power. And I end up with a Scat Pack, and then end up with a Hellcat, and end up with another Scat Pack, another Hellcat, and a Red Eye, and a Demon, and all this other stuff. So it pushes me through, and they get profit all the way along. And sometimes it could take years to work through all the trims to finally achieve. Some people didn't get their Hellcats till they got to their 40s or their 50s, but they went along and they stayed loyal to Dodge. And that's where that Mopar loyalty came from. It didn't matter if you go back to the 80s when they had the little crappy cars. There were entry-level cars that would get you in. Remember the Dodge Neons and the SRT Neon, I think, hilarious cars. But it would get you into the brand, and then they would move you along. And the car salesman would wait a couple years and call you back and say, they'd have a list of clientele. Hey, you want to step up from your SXT to an RT and keep you in the family? Well, that's gone. And Greedflation is what killed that, because now what we have is they're going to go to none of these entry-level cars, nothing that's going to let people, for example, like my daughter or her friends, go jump into something that will introduce them to the Dodge brand for a price range in the 20s, which back in the day, I remember sitting at a car wash calling on a SXT Challenger when I was like foreshadowing my daughter getting her driver's license, and I thought, man, it was like $22,000 after rebates. That was insane. I remember calling the dealership and said, if I come down there right now with $22,000, maybe it was $22,900 or whatever, you'll give me the keys to that car. Of course, tax and license, yeah, I get that. But you'll give me that car. The guy's like, yes, come down. This was before all the craziness. So it was true. I could come down there and get that car. It was hard to believe. Imagine this. If I would have stuck my daughter into a Dodge Challenger or a Charger when she was 16, well, she wanted the Supra, so I wasn't able to get her there. Make no mistake, I tried. And then as she got older, graduated from high school, maybe graduated from college, she could have driven that car into getting herself an RT, getting herself that V8, or if they would have launched the twin turbo i6 now and made those step-up cars, meaning Scat Pack and RT, which is what they should have done, and made the EVs just a separate option. Call them the latte machines, whatever the hell you want to call them, but make those something else. Frankly, the SXT and GT is what they should have called the electric cars. And they should have not tried to make those into super fast cars, made them lighter, more efficient, faster charging, and let people buy those if they want to have those. At least have some kind of starter car, but no, instead, they're wiping out the SXT and GT. They're gone. The only thing you could do is get a Hornet. Nobody wants that ugly thing. Certainly, I wouldn't as a guy. I'm not getting in that freaking SUV, that little SUV, and then be inspired to move up to an electric Dodge Daytona Charger thing. So they've lost that entire feeder group of buyers for many, many years. But guess what? Some tells me you can still walk into Ford, buy yourself a super cheap starter Mustang, and work your way up. You can still walk yourself into a lot of manufacturers' lots and pick up a starter car. You can still go to Mercedes and pick up, what's that, CLA thing, and work your way up. But not during COVID. They weren't building a lot of those things. They were building the higher trim. But today, we've got a situation where Dodge just said, we're not going to go back and build any of the lower trims. Everything's going to be expensive, except for the Hornet. What a stupid decision. So for this reason, I believe this is another reason why Dodge is dead. They've taken away the aspirational excitement of climbing through the trims. You don't get to do that anymore. You're going to get 2 versions of an electric toaster, and a year and a half from now, or a year from now, Lord knows what delays will come up, but a year from now, you can go buy this twin turbo i6, which is going to be expensive. So there is no kids coming out of college, no kids getting their driver's license that are going to get their first, 6-cylinder Dodge Chargers, and then ultimately work their way up and be Mopar fans for life, like I was trying to be. I was trying to do it. I was trying to give you my business forever, Dodge. So many of us were, and now you're leaving us behind. But Brad, the Banshee's going to come out, and that's going to be aspirational. That's going to be something you can climb to achieve. No, because if the current version of these EVs are going to be 5,800 pounds and get beat by Tesla Model 3 performances and Model Y all-wheel drives, then this Banshee is probably going to weigh even more, and even if it's the same, it's going to have no freaking range at all, because to use all that power, you're going to suck the daylights out of that battery and have no range. So that's a problem. Then you're going to be back sitting there twiddling your thumbs with your head up your ass waiting for that car to charge so you can go and do the rest of your day. So with that, everybody, that's why I think, boy, is Stellantis just killing this thing completely. And I think Greedflation is what we're witnessing at this point. Sell them the higher trims, sell them the more expensive cars, and sell it to them for as much as we possibly can, with markups, add-ons, and all the crap that, frankly, should have gone away a long time ago, but has not gone away, and it continues to be something we have to contend with when we walk into dealerships. So with that, everybody, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think about this whole Greedflation thing, and how Dodge has pretty much killed anybody from starting off with their brand and falling in love with the Mopar history. It's dead. It's gone. They're gone. So take care, everybody. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.